Hello and welcome to the Small Business Talk podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest. If you have followed along on my journey for a while, you know about Spark Women's Retreat, how I hosted that retreat for 5 years. It just holds a special place in my heart. It's definitely a highlight of my life. So anytime I learn about other women doing similar things, I get so excited about it. And today I'm welcoming Dylan and Emily with She's Fly, which we'll talk a little bit more about here in a moment. But first off, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. Love doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, so you two are joining us from Colorado.
Correct. Yep, we're in northern Colorado.
Fort Collins.
Yeah, and your business is called She's Fly. I love the name of your business. And I guess we'll just start off by sharing what your business is about and what you all are up to.
Yeah, so She's Fly, we launched in 2020. And what we wanted to do was create a company that empowers and encourages women to get outside, and what we do is fly fish. And so we're creating gear, services, events, a community that's creating this space for welcoming women and allowing them to explore the outdoors with us.
Which was a big reason why I started Spark also. So you both are into fly fishing. I imagine
Correct.
That's how this started.
Yes.
And you want to get other women into the sport. And also just bringing women together is magical.
Yes. Yeah. I think what we found, we didn't really have that. I mean, Emily and I met through a group of girlfriends that we would go out and fish together. There was a small group of us and we would go fishing and golfing. We did all these things. And I think when I started trying to find fly fishing gear, I couldn't find any women's gear, and definitely not women's gear that could fit me. So that was real disappointing. And I started talking to Emily one night at my house. We're sitting on the patio and I was like, what if we started our own fly fishing company? What if we provided gear for women? And once we got into the industry, that's when we started to see that women didn't really have that community of friends, other women that they could go with and learn with. And we had that. And so we really wanted to create that and connect women with each other and show them that you can go do this and there's no gatekeepers for you. Like we're showing you the way. So that's most of what we started to do, and we just keep building on it.
And Emily, you've been fly fishing. I know you're passionate about this. Expand a little bit more on that conversation when the two of you really started talking about getting serious about starting this business.
Yeah, absolutely. Funny enough, it was an idea that we had, I think, starting way back in 2017 is when we first kind of started chatting about it. Ultimately, we didn't launch until 2020 during COVID, so our timing was interesting. But, realistically, the conversation was just around a lack of resources. We had a really strong circle of women to lean on, and we consider that a resource. So we were kind of covered in that regard as far as community, but we saw an absolute void in available gear that is made for women, made for our bodies, made for the way we move. And just generally, the outdoor industry has a motto of pink it and shrink it. So they take men's gear, they size it down, and they throw some frou-frou BS pink something on it. Nothing against the color pink, but it just kind of takes away from the seriousness of the gear that women actually do need to have and the quality that they do need to have. So, I grew up in the outdoor industry, and I've known that void was there my entire life, and I've always just made do with it. Just kind of at some early age made peace with the fact that this was the good old boys club as far as that industry goes. And, you tread lightly. And you make what you're given work. But it does come to a point where, waders, for instance, if you don't have waders that are fitting you well, chances are it's going to restrict or hinder your movement. And then that kind of flows into a safety issue. If you take a fall in the water and you're in a precarious situation and you're on a river that, that water is not going to stop. It's not going to stop and take a timeout, wait for you to adjust your poorly suited gear. So when the idea came up, I don't even think I thought twice. I was just like, yeah, totally. Let's go for it. We were very fortunate, Dylan and I both very fortunate to have, grown up in Colorado, and having the Rocky Mountains as our backyard. Not everybody has those opportunities. And so we realized that with getting into a sport like fly fishing, there does tend to be a lot of gatekeeping. So in addition to just providing options of gear that you're not going to see at these big stores, they're smaller. Most of the products that we carry are women-owned companies. So we want to make sure that we're providing those options to people, so they know that these other great options are available, quality gear, stuff that you're not going to find at the big box stores. And in addition to that, just gatekeeper as far as community, it's tough as a woman to go into, get into archery, get into fly fishing, you name it, without facing at some point some sort of gender bias. And so we're just kind of looking to disrupt that a little bit and get rid of the gatekeeping, get rid of the biases, and show that, it's therapeutic, it's fun, it should be open to everybody. So we're just here to provide options and resources.
Right. So you're breaking down barriers. And you have different components of your business. So the first is the gear that you wear. And before we get into the gear, I know you explained that really well for us, Emily, but I think a lot of people listening have no idea what waders are, or, kind of what is fly fishing. So if either one of you could just give a quick overview of kind of what happens when you go out fly fishing. Are you in the water? Are you on the shore? And just a quick overview of what you have to wear, the gear that you're wearing to be comfortable.
Yeah, and ultimately that's personal choice. I know depending on the time of year, I'll go with or without waders. But ultimately, that's another aspect of what we're here to convey is you don't have to have all of the best, newest top line gear in order to be successful. Success in the outdoors looks different for everyone. So, you can go with waders, you can go without waders. This time of year in Colorado, obviously going without waders is not advisable because it's very, very cold. So the waders are there just to provide a barrier between your body heat and your person and the outdoor elements like the water. So it'll keep you dry, they'll keep you warm.
And they're like overalls, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So
we've got the whole, they'll come up, past your chest. And then there's another style that's just like a wading pant. So they're kind of like a snow pant, but they have a boot on them. So they've got a foot at the bottom of the wader that helps seal everything together. So you're not even getting your feet wet. Everything stays dry is the idea of these waders. So it just kind of, it gives you some longevity out on the water if it's cold, and, obviously keeps you safer when it is cold. So but again, it's to each their own. Not everybody fishes in an area where waders are needed. If you're in a southern state, you probably don't need your waders ever at all, unless I know it gets cold down there, but it's probably 1 month out of the year that you'll need them versus everywhere else in the country. To each their own.
Well, and I've heard from people in the South. Snakes are what they're worried about, so they might wear boots and waders to protect from those nasty bugs that you might run into. Waders. I think for me, when I started using waders, like Emily said, they're a barrier. There's something to protect you. You do layer up underneath them when it's cold, but when I started using them, it also changed the whole experience of my fly fishing. So fly fishing is different from spin angle. Spin reel is just what you typically think of somebody sitting on the shore casting out. Maybe they have a beer, they have a worm on their hook, and they're just kind of letting it float with a bobber and just waiting. I know there's more to it, and there's lots of different ways to do that, but typically that's what people think of when they think of fishing. Fly fishing is different in that it's a whole different kind of rod that's a little bit longer, more flexible, has a different kind of line on the reel, and you're casting in a way to present an artificial bug to a fish. And so that thing is called a fly. We just call it a fly, but it's not always mimicking a fly. It's all different kinds of bugs that are in that area. And they can be very, very tiny. They can float on top of the water. They can sink underneath the water. So you're really just trying to present this artificial fly and have a fish take it. So I felt like fly fishing was a little bit more challenging. There was a lot more thought into everything I had to do, which to me made it a much more mindful experience. So when I started fly fishing, it was after my husband died. It was a way for me to deal with my grief and immersing myself in nature and in the water, and finding that I'm always considering where I'm going to step, where the fish are, where they're hanging out, what's flying in the air, what's crawling on the ground, what is going on around me. So I can't be anybody anywhere but there. I am fully present in that moment and living it. So I feel like fly fishing is just a little bit more than what you typically get in a fishing experience. But many, many people fish the world over, and they don't all fly fish, and they all get something out of it. So I don't want to discount that experience at all. I just found it was different for me. And as far as once I got waders, because I started from the shore, I started just wearing chacos from the shore during the summer. When I got waders and got into the water, I felt like I was part of the environment. I felt like I was in there with the fish, and I was closer to the action, and I just felt like it changed my whole mindset about fishing. And I think it even made me better. So waders just changed my world. And I felt like I graduated to that level. I went through several years of just fishing from the shore, hanging out with the girls, figuring out what I was doing wrong, just all of that stuff. And then when I started investing in gear and figuring out what I wanted to get, the boots and waders were the first thing I bought. And yeah, it changed me. So
yeah. Well, and Dylan, I'll never forget that time that we did a little bit of secret shopping. And we went into a big box store with the intent of looking at what their selection of women waders were. And the gentleman that ultimately helped us out, he was very kind, and I know he did not mean to, but his first response upon learning that, Dylan and I were in there looking for waders is his eyes went directly to Dylan's body. And you could tell that he was hung up on that. And unable to fit her particular curves with the products that they were offering. And that's an experience that a lot of women do have when they go to look for waders is, these waders are off of a template made by men, and they don't quite understand the different variations in women's bodies. In addition to that, they're being sold by, employees that probably aren't very well versed in, how to navigate women's bodies as far as how garments and gear should fit. So you could tell that this gentleman was just really uncomfortable, which of course made us uncomfortable, even though we already knew what we were doing and knew what we were looking for. So, that really puts it in perspective for us about what the average experience in whether it's mom and pop fly shop or a big box store is for a woman when they're looking for gear. Well, even if it's a fly rod, you get treated a little differently when you go into some of these shops. So, again, we're really trying to break down those barriers, eliminate the gatekeepers, and, welcome everyone with open arms, because just like Dylan said, it's such an interactive and immersive, recreational sport to be into that you have no choice but to be where your feet are. So the therapeutic effects of fly fishing are huge, massive, from, a new mom suffering from postpartum, our military veterans, first responders, just general stresses in life, can all be pushed away and mitigated and diminished through, some therapy and our therapy, and a lot of other people's therapy is being outdoors and more specifically being in the water. So it's multifaceted for everybody. Pretty fun and interesting industry for us to break into with our perspective anyways. So we're excited to see that continue to grow and launch.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see you all continue to grow. Now, I know we've just covered a lot of things. We've covered body proportions and what the industry is like, and all the gear that kind of goes into fly fishing. And what is so important about what you're doing is that I think this is where a lot of people stop. They might be interested in doing something, especially women, and then they don't know where to start. It's uncomfortable. They get frustrated. And so you're breaking down those barriers and not only providing the clothing and the knowledge, but making it easy for somebody to come and ask questions and, come to you and not know what they're talking about and not feel uncomfortable about asking, and you're going to point them in the right direction. So I think that's really important. So we've talked about your clothing, the clothing line part of your business, which is so important. Now you have a retreat side of your business as well.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go into that part of your business and explain what a retreat is like with She's Fly.
Yeah, when we started thinking about providing retreats, we wanted to do something that we were interested in doing. So we started talking, I like going to hot springs. I like fly fishing. I don't want to fish 8 hours a day. Like, that's just not me. I don't want to get up at 5 a.m. and go get on the drift boat and be out there all day. I mean, I've done that and that can be fun, but I don't want my whole trip to be that. And I like yoga and I like, hanging out with my girls. And so that's really what we tried to recreate when we started these retreats. And so they are hosted at hot springs resorts typically. That's what we're really trying to find. We do have a few that aren't. But we do a hot springs resort. We do lessons for women who have never learned before. So on day one, there's a clinic that Emily and I teach, and you will learn everything from tying knots to casting, to actually casting on the water, maybe even catching fish, because we're on properties that have access to water. So we do that all of day one. If you already fly fished and you're pretty experienced, you have the option to go on either a drift boat with a guide, who we hire girl guides, or you can go wade fishing with a guide. And that's a 2-day experience. So day one, if you're in the clinic with us, day two, you're going to go out with a guide and you're going to apply what you just learned. And we have yoga in the morning to kind of kick off the day. And then we do a restorative yoga at the end of the day to kind of help you after you've been casting all day and standing and moving. We have hot springs throughout. We do fancy dinners. We do the kickoff on the first night of arrival is like a charcuterie and wine meet and greet. So lots of fun just hanging out with the girls. They're very small. We won't have more than 6 people. And that's mostly because it's manageable for Emily and I to teach a class of 6. And if we had all 6 for one day. And also because we want to create those intimate connections that people end up being friends for life. And that's what we're finding now. We've actually had repeat customers coming back, and they're coming back with the people they were there with. So it's been wonderful. And just creating that space and seeing these women try something new and kind of settle into it and feel real comfortable asking all the questions that they have. And us saying, like, you have a right to ask every question. When you get out on the water with the guide tomorrow, you ask them everything because they're working for you. I think having that permission and knowing that that's expected has never really been explained to people sometimes. When you hire a guide, they're working for you. You can ask them anything you want. Yeah. And that's what they're there to do.
Yeah. And I want to highlight how serene fly fishing is. Imagine yourself being in the outdoors. I don't know. It probably can be rigorous, but I don't think it has to be. You do need to walk to water, but I imagine, there are different distances that you can walk or hike to water. But just imagine being outside, and it's an active sport, meaning you're casting over and over. You're not just standing there and you're looking for fish. And I've tried it before, and it was so peaceful. And so if you are looking to do something in the outdoors and you're not sure, you want to give this a try, then you can attend a retreat. And then, of course, you have all the gear as well that's available to women who want to go out and fly fish, which is awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, we provide all the gear. Yeah. And Dylan and I were saying the same thing at the same time. Yeah. So, I mean, you don't even have to know what a fish looks like if you want to come to a retreat. We'll get you set up. We'll get you pointed in the right direction. We'll take care of all of it for you. So you at least have the opportunity to decide whether or not it's for you.
Mm-hmm. And hey, if it's not, you still get to be at the hot springs and hang out with incredible women and all that good stuff. So, yeah, it sounds amazing. I'd like to transition a little bit now into the business side of things. So I think we have an idea of what you two are doing. And the big thing that stands out in my mind is, one, this is a male-dominated industry. And 2, you have the outdoor industry, which I think is a tough industry to break into. So you kind of have 2 things going against you. You're breaking into this industry with a new idea, and it's very specific to women. And I'd just like to get an idea of what you two have done to overcome the challenges associated with doing that type of a thing.
Yeah. So when we started out, I think one of the first things we did, they had a fly fishing retailer expo. This was back in 2019. I think.
Yep.
And we went there not really knowing this is where people who are going to be a retailer or who are retailers can meet with the suppliers of those wares and figure out what they want to buy for their stores. And so we went in there not really knowing what to expect or who to talk to. We had high hopes of like getting Orvis, and Patagonia, and Reddington, and all these big names. And we were too small; they wouldn't work with us, and still won't for now. But we did. Then we started meeting these amazing women who have been in this industry. They've been cracking that glass ceiling, and they just opened their arms to us, and we're like, "Hey, you need help? Like, let's talk about what you're trying to do. How can we get our stuff in your store? How can we help you succeed?" That's what a lot of them said. One of them, I said something about being in Fort Collins and, there's other fly shops and we're worried about that. And they said, we're in Bozeman. There's 5 fly shops. There's room for you. There's always going to be room for you. And I think that has stuck with me. I always just consider that like, yeah, there is room for us. There's room for all of us. So we just are going to make way. So these women make things like waders, make things like face coverings and different types of sun shirts and all these things that we wear, and also different accessories. And they were really open to working with us, and we've developed those relationships over the years. And so we're kind of following their lead and watching what they do. And if we need advice, we ask them. But we're starting to get the hang of it. Now we're seeing ones come behind us, and we're like, "Hey, come on, like." We'll help you. We'll share what we know. So it's been pretty accepting in that respect. I think we're working with local, and a national organization, Trout Unlimited. We work with them pretty frequently, and we're pushing them to put women on their magazines, to put women in their classes. And they're open to this. I mean, they are trying this. It's a nationwide effort. They're like, we need to get more marginalized people represented in this sport. So there is a national movement for this across the board. So we are starting to see these changes happen. And really, I mean, we're doing something called Trout Fest in Northern Colorado next year, and we're going to be talking at it about safety on the water and safety in general for women and self-defense and waders. And we push them. He said to me, one of the guys running it was like, "How do we get more women there?" And I'm like, "Put programming that women are interested in. Like, why don't we have a wader fitting area? Why can't we have women talking on stage about stuff that matters to us? Not, how to catch fish, but these other issues that we're dealing with." And he's like, "I had no idea you guys are worried about safety." And I thought, "Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because you're not a woman."
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we tend
always thinking about that.
We tend to compare, and I think that that's not the best way. Men and women are very different. We can be doing the same thing, but we approach it differently. We think about it differently. The list goes on and on. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so wonderful that you're out there pushing the envelope and really helping men too open their doors and make this sport more accessible. And, the one thing that stands out to me, and it's something I've also found in my business, is, my background is in corporate, and women in that environment tended to get kind of ugly. You have multiple people vying for just a few positions in a corporate environment if you want to move up the corporate ladder. But when it comes to business, I think women really are opening their arms and opening, their experiences and sharing them and helping other women. And it's something that I didn't expect as a business owner. And it sounds like you're experiencing the same thing, where we're really helping each other out to make it so that we can all be successful.
Right.
I think the standard is this accepting community. The majority of women we work with have been just above and beyond, really. There are exceptions to that, as there are everywhere. But generally, it has been a very welcoming environment with the women, and the men we're meeting too. I mean, once they listen to us and start to see what we're doing, I think they're open to it. So we haven't had a ton of pushback. But it's a movement. This is going to take, constant effort, and we're in for it.
Yeah, we've definitely had some interactions with, not just suppliers for our store, but across the board where, generally we're really well received, but there is a small enclave of other females who aren't quite as friendly with their arms quite as wide open. I like to think, as we continue our presence and continue our movement, some of those people have actually turned around and come back to us and want to work with us. So that's been really encouraging to see. But there definitely is still a little bit of pushback there. And, it's an industry that's been so male dominated ever since it's been an industry. So we can't just expect that to 180 overnight. So it'll be a constant evolution for sure. And I would venture to guess that we haven't hit all of the road bumps, just yet. I'm sure there's a few more in our future and a few more people that we'll have to win over. But in general, everyone's been pretty great and pretty accepting and very helpful.
Yeah. What do you do to win people over? So you are attempting to work with someone or you're sharing details about your business. There's some pushback there. What do you normally do to work through that?
I usually ask, what their expectations are, what's giving them pause, what are your concerns? Because I want to meet you where you are and understand the problems that you're seeing with this, and this comes from my background as a facilitator in corporate. So working and kind of trying to mediate relationships. Luckily, we haven't had to do that much. Mostly it's when we start explaining what our model is and what we're trying to do. People are like, yeah, I'll try it out. So I find that really interesting with it, they'll like, hey, we'll give it a try. And we're doing the same thing. We're trying on suppliers. We're saying, let's try this out. Let's see if this works, if we can sell these things. And sometimes we've had to stop selling things because it's not working. Or we've had people actually, shut down their business and we can't work with them anymore. But generally, I approach it from trying to really meet people where they are and understand concerns and not be so pushy, like you should work with them. Look at us. We're the future, damn it. Like, I don't try to do that. I try to be more understanding and because I'm mostly the one dealing with the supplier side. So I'm trying to maintain those relationships, set up the payment plans, make sure we're on time on everything, that there's never a reason that they need to have a concern with us. So I'm ensuring that our relationship with those suppliers stays on the up and up, and that, and that if I'm running into any issues, I'm going with them with respect and saying, hey, we're seeing this. Is there anything we can do? So really just trying to make it good for both sides.
Well, and ultimately, Dylan, I remember, oh my gosh, back before, I think maybe we had just launched and we met up with my dad, who's also has a small company in the outdoor industry as well. And he said that as long as we're ourselves, we don't have anything to sell. We don't have to prove anything. We're going to be well received as long as we are ourselves, our authentic selves. And that's going to attract the right kind of people. And he has not been wrong.
It's true. And I found that as I went corporate. There was this woman, her name was Jean Tabeka, and she passed away, but she was a facilitator and wrote books about communication and collaboration, and she was incredible. She was based out of Colorado. And she said, bring your most authentic self everywhere you go, whether that's at work, at home, whatever. And I've used that for, 12, 15 years, because I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to be myself. I will probably cuss less when I'm in a situation like this, but other than that, I'm pretty much myself every time I'm somewhere. I just feel like being genuine and authentic is really key to building relationships with people. So yeah, and Emily's dad saying that, it was perfect. It was totally true.
Great advice. Be yourself. And not everyone's going to purchase from you, but going back to what you were mentioning earlier, if you've got competitors in your town or in your industry, they're not you. And there's plenty of room for everyone. And if you go out in your authentic self, you'll find your success, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. Now, the two of you are sitting down, you come up with this idea, you launch this business, and you're both still working.
Yeah.
It's fun.
You both still have, you still have full-time jobs. It's how
great.
A lot of people start their business.
Yeah.
You have to kind of start it as a side hustle or whatever you want to call it, and slowly grow that over time. So share with us how the two of you manage that, both of you personally.
It's a lot of wine involved. And if it wasn't for Dylan's constant reminder on the calendar, it wouldn't be evolving. I'm the worst at calendars, but I mean, realistically, it's all in just time blocking and time management. It's been interesting for me because fly fishing is truly my church, and it's something I really do enjoy. And there have been moments where now it's a job and it's not that church anymore. So I have to catch myself in those moments and bring it back in and remind myself of why I'm doing it, which doesn't take much talking into, because, you think about all the people on the planet, all the people in the world right now, who else has this opportunity and has the resources that I have right now in this moment? Very few, if any. So it's real easy to bring myself back down to, being able to enjoy it again. But it's a lot of work. It's definitely has eliminated a lot of free time that I used to have. But again, as long as I can continue to enjoy it and see the good in it, I'm all for it. I'm willing to devote as much time as I need to.
Yeah, and I think working with Emily has been really key for me. We really get each other. We understand each other, and we can be direct, and we can be silly, and we can be fun, and we get shit done. And so it's more that, we text each other. We can text each other like, we're going to hang out tonight and maybe go do something fun. And then we're also like, did you get that post out? Did you do this and that? So we try to separate friendship and work, but we're on the same text thread. So the things happen there sometimes. But generally, Emily's really good about that, saying like, tonight we're hanging out as friends. Mm-hmm. No work. We are not going to talk about She's Fly. Right. Or today we're going fishing because we want to go fishing, and it has nothing to do with She's Fly. And it's like, yes, you're right. Because for me, I mean, I live and breathe this. I talk about it all the time. And so getting that from her to rein it in. And then as far as like my day, I love my day job. One, I love the work I do. And so loving what I do during the day helps me do the rest of what I need to do for She's Fly, because I love what I do there too. And I found that there was a time earlier this year where I had gotten laid off from a job I had for, 13 years. And so I had 4 months where I was just working on She's Fly, and I loved it. I was like, this is fantastic. I would love if this was my real life. And then I started this new job, and I still love it because I am still able to carve out time and make sure I'm doing those things that I love doing for She's Fly and keeping She's Fly on track, and still doing all this and creating time for self-care. I think that is my most important priority now, is self-care. And it's happened in the last couple of years. I got really stressed out. I was in a really bad relationship that ended after COVID. That was verbally abusive and manipulative and awful. And I decided to hey, I got to shut down. And I've got to take care of me and figure out what my priorities are and create that space to do that. So, I mean, I meditate almost daily, pretty much daily, and, make sure I'm out with my dogs and doing my walks and taking those times to decompress, because if you don't, you are going to burn out. And there's been times Emily and I've talked about, we're approaching burnout mode. Mm-hmm. Time to take a break. We're going to call off meetings and not talk about She's Fly for a week or two because we need it. And that's okay because we own it. We can do that. We can say hey, we need to take a step back and
I wish we could take a week or two. That sounds lovely. When did we get to do that?
It hasn't happened in a while, but yeah, we try.
Welcome to business ownership. Right. It sounds like the two of you have found a nice balance with each other, and you over communicate. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so key in any relationship, whether it's business or personal, is over communicating and letting the other person know where you're at and what you're up to, and also making sure that you're both meeting all of your business expectations, keeping things running, and all of that. Tell us about the future of She's Fly. What do you see 5 years from now?
We're going to be $1 billion company. No, I was just kidding. Right. And I would love that. We are looking at if we do this well, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to dial in and focus on what we do at She's Fly and do it really well so that we can expand to other areas of women's sports. So probably hunting would be the next realm we go into, or women's hunting gear. We already know a bunch of people in the hunting industry. How do we help there? What can we do to support those women? So these are things we're looking at, and the roadmap is getting us to one. She's Fly is almost like a template that we're using to apply to different types of what women need to help us empower women more. So I think we'll continue on the trajectory we're on with an online model. And we may have some mobile retail that comes out of that. And maybe in 5 years, we might have one headquarters shop. But I don't know. We're waiting to see if that's going to be necessary. We don't really know yet. Yeah. So, Emily, I don't know if you want to add anything if I missed.
Yeah, aside from the unknowns, if there's one thing the pandemic taught me about a 5-year plan, is there's no such thing as a 5-year plan. So it's really difficult for me to have that amount of foresight. But echoing everything Dylan just said, absolutely we don't want to stop at fly fishing, because there are vacancies in other industries where women have otherwise been overlooked. And so we definitely want to, keep our eyes peeled for those kind of opportunities to just recreate spaces for women in the outdoor industry. And we don't necessarily even have to stop at the outdoor industry. So we have, big, broad goals, but we also are realists. So we'll see where the next 5 years goes. Being a startup and surviving our first 3 years as well as we did, I think is a huge accomplishment. So it's not unrealistic to start thinking about those 5-year goals. So we definitely, like I said, we've got some big sites. Our targets are set on some big sites. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. And the biggest one I think too is that we're doing this full time. Like I've been putting that into every intention that I'm doing with this company. Is like, I would like to within 5 years have this be the thing I'm doing full time. So we're going to be marching towards that.
Yeah.
You're going to do it. You two are going to do it. I have a feeling. So new business owners, kind of put that hat on. For anybody who's listening, who's looking to launch a business and maybe break into an industry that's new, or your business requires inventory ahead of time, and there are lots of things that go into your business, planning for retreats, all of that. If somebody is thinking about starting a business that's similar to yours, what would your advice be to them?
Yeah. I would say, more than anything, just make sure that you have the mental broadband, or the broadwidth rather, to be able to handle having 2 full-time jobs. It's the biggest thing. Make sure that you're able to commit to it, and that you're serious for it, and watch your energies, watch your energy with who you surround yourself with. And I don't remember, Dylan, who said it, but one of our friends said that you need to surround yourself with people who believe in your dream more than you do. And that's huge. That's absolutely huge. So just,
that friend is an Olympic gold medalist. The friend who said that is an Olympic gold medalist. I'm like, that's right. One of the nuggets. That's one of the nuggets.
Yes. That's right. And it doesn't take a lot of, Dylan and I have never owned a business before, let alone an online business before. We don't really know exactly what we're doing. Don't be afraid to not know what you're doing. I think is the other side of it too. So as long as you have the energy and the fortitude and the support, don't be afraid to not know what you're doing. Just go for it.
And celebrate your wins.
Oh yeah.
I think we overlook that, and I think it's good that I do it in my software job where we celebrate wins, and we're always like recognizing the things we did well and seeing what we could do better. You can do that in your business, and it's really helpful, because then you're looking at, hey, what do we do really well? And then what maybe do we want to improve? Like taking that time to evaluate regularly what you're doing so that you can pivot and make changes before something gets too bad. I would definitely do that. And then the whole be yourself. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we forget how capable we are.
Right.
We don't have to know everything. We don't have to have all the answers. We don't have to have our 5-year plan together. We don't have to have this and that and this and that, but we can figure it out. Mm-hmm. We can reach out to other people for help. We can find resources. I'm going to say the word again, women are so capable, and that's all that you need to get started.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would say some small business resources that really help too. Score was one that I used. So Score is a resource online that has tons of webinars about starting a business, how to do the budgeting, how to do like everything, and it's free. So I think we still refer to that. I still go to webinars for those things. I think that's really helpful. And then networking communities with other business owners. I learn a lot from other business owners locally. The Chamber of Commerce is another one. So these are like great areas to be involved with because these business owners want to help you succeed.
Yeah, it's great advice. Score, I think, is in every state. I know we have it in Nevada too, SCORE, and it is a free resource. I believe it's through the Small Business Administration.
Yep.
But yeah,
it's nationwide.
Yeah, and it is nationwide. So you can, if they're in your city or wherever you're located, you can go visit them in person, or as you mentioned, you can go online and get those resources. That's great advice. Yeah. All right. How can people find you? One, and two, tell us about some of your upcoming retreats that you have planned.
So we do have a website. It's www.shesfly.com. So you can get on there and reach out to us. Also, info@shesfly.com is a way to email me and Emily both. So we both check that box. And the retreats coming up in 2024, we're working on some that are going to be posted soon. We have 2 posted as of now. One of them is in April. It's in Saratoga, Wyoming, at a hot springs resort there. Day 1, you'll be either doing the clinic with us or you'll be out on a drift boat with our friend Kelly McAllister, who's one of the only female guides in Wyoming. And she was born and raised in Saratoga. She coordinates the trip for us. So she will be taking you out on a boat. And if you do the 2 days, you'll be with her for 2 days. If you do the 2-day float trip. And it includes a dinner. The last night is a dinner in the brewery that's on site. So we're actually in where the tanks are. And this is private 4-course chef meal paired with beer. It's just amazing. We have my best friend who I grew up with since I was 5. Her name is Rebecca Vanderpool. She will be our yoga instructor. So she's incredible. And yeah, we'll be up there from, I believe it's Friday, April 20th. It's that weekend. So it's a 3-night trip. You get 2 full days in Saratoga, and there's all these different package details on our website. The other one that we're doing is during prime leaf peeping time in Colorado. That's a big deal in the mountains, and it's in September, mid to late September. I can't remember the dates exactly. I think it's around September 23rd. It's near Aspen, Colorado. So it's in this place called Avalanche Ranch Hot Springs, and it's more rustic, and they're cabins, meaning that there's no cell coverage there. You're going to be out of touch. There is a lodge that has Wi-Fi, and you can do wireless calling and all that, but or Wi-Fi calling. But your cabins have a kitchenette and have a bathroom, a full bathroom, and they sleep 4. We only put 2 people per cabin. But yeah, really cute little cabins, great hot springs. It's on an active farm, like a working farm that's in the hills. And so there's like cows, and last time we were there were some bears, and it was really, really fun to be there. Yeah, it was a blast. I saw a bear. And there's, we do fly fishing on site there, and then you go with a guide. Her name is, Lonnie Kitching. She's an outfitter. She owns a whole outfit out there of fly fishing guides. So we work with her to coordinate the guided trip, and it's a wade trip, meaning that you would be in waders wading into the river, not on a boat. So you would be either on the Roaring Fork or the Frying Pan River. Those are gold medal waters in Colorado. That means some of the best fishing in the state are on these 2 rivers. And also you're near Aspen, in one of the most gorgeous parts of the state. So during prime leaf peeping time, so you might get the chance to see some really cool aspen leaf changing, but it's one of our favorites, and that's another 3-night trip, 2 full days of fishing and hanging out. And I haven't picked the yoga instructor for that one yet, but it is one of our girls will be coming with us.
Yeah. All skill levels, welcome?
Yes, all skill levels.
And you have
I
gear.
don't
If you don't have gear, you'll have gear and everything.
Yeah, we have gear. All gear
Excellent.
provided. You just need to show up and bring,
a good attitude.
Good attitude, be open-minded, and bring clothing that's suitable for the elements. So what we know about both Wyoming and Colorado is that it might be 70 during the day and then it might snow that night. I mean, just pay attention to the weather and be prepared for anything.
All this sounds lovely. I love what the two of you are doing. Anything that we can do to break down barriers for women to get outdoors and try new things is just fantastic. So thank you both for taking time out to share your She's Fly story. Thanks for joining us. And for all of you who are tuning in, go check out shesfly.com and sign up for a retreat and get out there and try some fly fishing. Thanks you two for joining me today.